What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, looking at a brand new archetype coming out of Extreme Force. These are the Tentacles. They are straight out of range. I believe they're played by a character named Akira. And honestly, guys, I've been kind of dreading making this video, and I'll explain why really briefly. It's because I've looked at this archetype thoroughly. I've read every card. In fact, I think I read every card on Thursday or Friday, and I just can't find anything redeemable about this archetype. I don't think that it's interesting. I don't think it's going to be competitively viable. I don't think that the artwork is cool, the mechanics not cool, and I'm just looking at this and I'm like, wait, why do people think that this is for some reason like hype? I just don't get it. And to be completely honest, I'm ready to just shit all over this archetype, and I know it's going to trigger a lot of people to Cap G, give it a chance. I do understand, obviously every archetype doesn't need to be competitive. In fact, my favorite archetype in the entire game to play right now is not actually Lunalights, it's actually Weather Painters. I'm having a blast playing that damn deck, and I can clearly tell when playing it, it's not like the most competitive thing. The deck has all types of deficiencies and it doesn't feel overpowered, but it's just really fun to play. Or when I did the video on the Jack Knights, you know, a lot of people said they suck, and I was like, you know what, I don't even care, because the way that they're like column based and the way you summon them and how awesome like the artwork looks on them, like I don't care that they suck, they just look really cool, and that's something redeemable. With this new archetype Tentacles, I don't know, man. They're first off, they're flip effect based, and it's like, oh geez, we're still doing that, I guess. Even though the crawlers didn't turn out that well, I've played against a couple of crawlers on my stream. The crawlers can be kind of annoying, and it is at least a coherent deck, but this is another archetype that's flip effect based, and it has a bunch of like high level flips, and it's like, holy shit, did we learn nothing from Subterrors? I don't understand why we're trying to do Subterrors 2.0 as if that archetype wasn't shitty enough. And at least with Subterrors, you can have the one redeeming quality that at least they have a bunch of ways to like flip themselves down and then reflip themselves up immediately and stuff like that. Like they can change their battle positions with a couple of cards. As far as I know, this archetype can't do that, and maybe it'll be an archetype that gets like 4 sets of support, but I don't know, man. It's a lot of cards here, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read the cards out, and you give me you guys' opinions, because I'm pretty stern on this. I don't really like this archetype at all. My prediction is this is going to be like one of the worst archetypes from the Vrains era. This is like Digibug level. But anyways, let's go ahead and start. We got Tentacle, Acute Cerberus. This is their boss monster. It's a Link 3 Dark Fiend type, and I believe the entire archetype is Dark Fiend, so at least you got that going for you. It has 0 attack, but don't worry, it does get stronger potentially. It requires 3 tentacle monsters, and it says while there are 3 or more different tentacle monsters in your graveyard, including tentacle-based Gardna, this card gains 3,000 attack. So I was like, okay, you know, it takes 3 dudes to summon it, and if there's 3 in your graveyard, it gets 3,000 attack. That's legit. Now, let me give you a little spoiler. From what I read, this card actually is like garbage. The Tentacle Gardener, the one you need in the graveyard, like kind of sucks, unless I just read the effect wrong the first time. This card gains 600 attack for each tentacle monster it points to. When a battle phase in which this card declares an attack in special summon 1 tentacle token, it's a fiend, has let's see, 0 attack, 0 defense, and level 1, which I guess actually would give it 600 attack if you summon that token to a zone that this card points to. So the boss monster is not that bad, but again, it kind of depends on this Gardner card. Maybe I had it wrong the first time, but I'm under the impression that the first time I read it, I was like, oh my god, this card is like pretty terrible. We have Tentacle Angel, which is level 4, which I'm fine with. If you want to make a flip effect deck with nothing but like 4 and lower monsters, I believe Crawler is like that, Shadows, except Shadow Beast, I'm perfectly fine. When you start throwing in the high level monsters, that's when CapG just starts like mentally checking out, because like, get me the fuck out of here if you're just gonna give us level 6s and 7s. I ain't like, I'm not with that shit. This is 500 attack, 800 defense. Each effect is, or actually the only effect, which is the flip, is a hard once per turn. Special summon 1 flip monster except Tentacle Angel from your hand or graveyard and face down. Defense position, if this effect was activated during the battle phase of your opponent's turn, also in that battle phase. Yeah, I remember this one. I remember thinking this is probably like one of the better monsters of the archetype. If your opponent runs this over, not only does it have the ability to replace itself, most of the time I would assume you're going to use the graveyard, because then it's just a straight up +1. But then you get the in there their battle phase, like this is a really good utility card. I'm definitely liking this one, the Tindangle Angel. Next up, we have the Tindangle Base Gardener. This is the monster that is required to have in the graveyard for the Link monster to gain 3,000 attack. It's a level 5, which kind of already made me hate it. 0 attack, which made me hate it even more. 2,300 defense. The first effect is the hard once per turn, let's see. If you control a face-down monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Okay, that's not bad. Effect number 2, if this card is normal or special summon to a monster zone, to a monster zone your opponent's Link monster points to, you contribute this card, special summon one Tindangle monster from your hand or deck in face-up attack position. This is why I hated the monster. I just realized it. It requires your opponent to have a Link monster to really use this second effect. It requires your opponent to have a Link monster out, and it's like, yeah, I guess in the Reigns era, you know, everything seems to be very focused on Link, but what? Like, I don't want my ability to be completely dependent on my opponent, like having a Link monster on the field and me having to summon it to a zone that Link monster points to, because what if it's one of the Link monsters that only points to like its to zones on the opponent's side of the field? So yeah, you can summon this guy relatively easy, but I don't find a lot of great utility in this card, and the fact that you have to basically have this in the graveyard for your boss monster to get stats is kind of shitty. So that's what I saw, and I was just like, oh god, this archetype's going downhill. We started so good with the Tindangle Angel, then we have the Tindangle Hound, which is a level 7, which just made me check out a little more. 2,500 attack, 0 defense, which, okay, that's pretty good. It's a flip effect monster. Target one face-up monster on the field except this card. This card gains attack equal to the original attack of that target. Afterwards, change the target monster to face-down defense position. This is definitely a good effect. It's kind of like an honest of sorts. The problem is you can't attack that monster. Well, you can, but that monster goes face down, so you're not going to be really doing any battle damage. I wonder if you can use this on Link monsters, considering I would imagine that you can. The Link monster just wouldn't be put face down, because it says after you basically get the attack, then you put the monster face down. So I'm gonna assume you can target Link monsters with this, they just won't go face down. My thing is just, how the fuck do you get this on the field? It's level 7. Second effect is monsters on your side of the field, or excuse me, monsters on your opponent's side of the field lose 1,000 attack for each monster. Each monster that this monster is linked to. Okay, so kind of requires a what's it called? Kind of another effect that kind of requires Link monsters. Effect number 3: if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one face down monster on the field. That monster is changed to face up defense position. So I assume you're supposed to be using that to like flip your dude's face up. I don't know, like, what type of utility is that? Why can't it just replace itself and give you a search or something? Like, why is Konami trying to think so far outside the box with this weird, like, utility effect? Like, why can't it just be something practical? Like, when it dies, it just, like, pops a card on your opponent's side of the field, or, like, you get a Tindangle monster from your deck. Like, why do they have to make something so complicated that probably isn't going to be useful very often? Next up, we have Tindangle Apostle. This is a level 3, so at least you can just put it on the field immediately. 800 attack, 1,600 defense, flip effect, which is a hard once per turn. Change up to 3 face-down monsters on your field to face-up defense position. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. Even though it's a flip effect that changes monsters' effects, so that's kind of weird. If all monsters change to face-up defense position by this effect are Tindangle monsters, you can add a Tindangle card from your deck to your hand up to the number of those monsters. So if you have 3 face down Tentacles and you flip this guy up and you flip 3 Tindangle monsters face up, then you get to search 3 Tindangle cards. I mean, it sounds really nice in theory, like, hey, I can get 3 cards from my deck, but let's be real, like, what are the odds of that actually happening? I mean, how many times do you see like Subterror players with like 4 monsters on the field and they're constantly like, if you get 3 monsters on the field and they haven't died off in a turn, like, chances are you've already won the duel. So I don't know, this is potential good card, but it seems a little just, it seems like a little win more, to be honest. Then we have Tindangle Intruder, another level 6, because high level monsters that are flips, those have always been like a smash, right, Konami? It's not like those haven't been terrible. Tindangle Intruder, 0 defense, 2200 attack, and it says you can only use each effect once per turn. Flip, add 1 tentacle card from your deck to your hand. So their Stratos is a level 6 flip effect monster. What? Like, who designed this fucking archetype? It's so fucking terrible. Like, what? Like, why isn't this like a level 4 monster? Like, okay, whatever. Second effect, if this card is normal summon, send 1 tentacle card from your deck to your graveyard. I guess you'd want to send that level 5 dude, the dude that's bad, so that your link monster can get effects. But honestly, we haven't really seen any tentacle card that like activates in the that wants to be sent to the graveyard so far. Effect number 3, while this card is in your graveyard, if a monster is special summoned to your side of the field in face down defense position, you can special summon this card in face down defense position from your graveyard. So that's kind of nice. I mean, you know, maybe use the shallow grave or something. I honestly, I have to look at the spells and traps. Maybe one of them is sort of like a Call of the Haunted that puts a monster face down. We have Protected Sky of Nagel, continuous spell card. Third effect card once returned. Tentacle monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or opponent's card effects. That's really good. Okay, we're getting somewhere. This is damn good. Very impressive. I don't think it counts on face down monsters though, which actually would be kind of subtle because face down monsters are not treated as, you know, not treated as monsters with names. The first time a tentacle monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent this turn, double that battle damage. Okay, another good effect. Effect number 3, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then discard 1 tentacle card, add another copy of this card from your deck. That's what it is. The spells and traps of this archetype search themselves. So the continuous, I would say the continuous spell card is actually pretty good. Then we have Euler Circuit. This is a field spell. And it's the third effect is the hard once per turn, which I believe is just, it's pretty much the same thing as the last card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 tentacle card, then discard 1 tentacle card, and you get to add another copy of Euler Circuit from your deck to your hand. So the spells and traps seem to just search themselves by discarding another like random tentacle card in your hand. Let's see, the effect is if you have 3 or more tentacle monsters, monsters your opponent controls cannot attack. Okay, so it's telling you that you want to load up on monsters with this deck. Again, the problem is it's not like all the monsters can just be face down or anything, because then they won't count as like tentacle monsters. Second effect, during your standby phase, you can target 1 tentacle monster you control. Give control of that monster to your opponents. Not sure why you'd ever want to do that. I'm honest, I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure I'm missing something, but I'm not really sure why you'd want to be able to do that. Why you'd want to do that. Then the last card is Tentacle Delanoy. Okay, that's just gonna have to count. I probably mispronounced that one. Normal trap, when you take battle damage due to the attack of an opponent's monster, while there are 3 or more tentacle monsters in your graveyard, destroy that monster that attack, then special summon 1 tentacle Cerberus from your extra deck, which is it's the boss monster. Okay, that's really good. I just wonder how quickly you can get these jokers in the graveyard. I know that there are a couple of cards that can send them, like the spells and traps let you discard them to the graveyard, and there's a couple of ways of getting them in the graveyard. I wonder how quickly you can accomplish that. Then the second one says if you control no monsters in the extra monster zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target up to 3 tentacle monsters in your graveyard that have different names, special summon those monsters in face down defense position. So I don't know. It seems like super situational, to be honest. Like when I look at this archetype, I see some very, very random effects. I know somebody's gonna be like, Cap, there's super hype potential with this deck, you're just not seeing it. I'm just gonna be honest. I see maybe 2 good cards in this entire archetype. I don't know how many cards that I just read, probably like 7 or maybe 6, but like, where's the cohesion with the monster effects? Like, I just read at least 4 or 5 like super high level monsters, like 6s, 7s, and shit. Like how are you supposed to like be able to easily drop those monsters? I don't know. Right now I'm looking at this archetype. I'm seeing a build like Subterrors, except way worse. Like Subterrors looked a lot better than this because at least Subterrors had ways of getting their high level monsters on the field. This deck doesn't seem to have any cohesion at all. And I know it's gonna sound like I'm shitting all over this deck, but this just seems like a terrible archetype design, and there doesn't seem to be anything interesting about the deck. And we've seen this design fail so many times. So I don't know. I'm just gonna end the video here, because people are just going to say that I'm complaining too much. I said this when I made the Subterror video initially, and people thought that I was being too harsh on the deck, but this looks way worse than Subterrors, and even the artwork on the cards is not really like all that good. So I'll have a link to for you guys to be able to check out the artwork as well. But you guys let me know what you think of the Tentacles, because maybe you have a vastly different opinion. Right now, I'm thinking they're like one of the worst archetypes. I'm thinking they're like Aroma level. So anyways, you guys let me know. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications for daily content.